SpongeBob. Woo! SpongeBob SquarePants is an animated children's TV show created by Steven Hillenburg, and practically the moment episode 1 of the show hit the Nickelodeon channel in 1999, television as a whole was changed forever. The series went on to become easily Nickelodeon's biggest property, with merchandise alone generating over $10 billion for the company, and becoming the longest running show on the platform by far. So with as popular and beloved as the series was, Nickelodeon did what every children's TV company does when they have a hit on their hands: take it to the movies. And SpongeBob did just that. November 19, 2004, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie was released, and it did fairly well, grossing $140 million on a $30 million budget. And while yeah, not a massive success or anything, you have to remember that the show had only really just begun, with the third and at the time supposedly final season of the series releasing it around the same time as the movie. So with that being said, it wasn't much of a surprise when the studio released a sequel in 2015 when the show had firmly established its place in pop culture. The SpongeBob movie Sponge Out of Water was released in January 28, 2015, and grossed almost 3 times the amount of the first movie. With this newfound success, the third film in this ever-expanding franchise was fast-tracked, and set to come out only a few years after Sponge Out of Water debuted. However, this anticipated third film wouldn't be released for another 5 years, and unfortunately it wouldn't even be in theaters. Yeah, no, the SpongeBob movie Sponge on the Run was released August 14th, 2020, and went straight to Paramount+. To give the film some credit, a huge reason for the delay and eventual cancellation of the theatrical release was the pandemic, with Sponge on the Run being one of the first movies to fall victim to it. But that wasn't the only reason. You see, this third SpongeBob film went through numerous script changes late into development, including even a title, poster, and story change after the movie had already been practically completed. So Sponge on the Run first started development in 2014, even before Sponge Out of Water had been released. It was then in this early stage of pre-production from 2014 to 2018, a whole 4 years until Nickelodeon fired Paul Tibbitt, the original writer-director for the project, and replaced him with Tim Hill. But it's not really Hill's side of the story that I want to focus on though. You see, the real weird shit happened when Paul Tibbitt was working on the project. For those of you that don't know who Paul Tibbitt is, besides Steven Hillenburg himself, Tibbitt was easily the next most involved with the show, and even took over as showrunner when Hillenburg left the franchise after season 3. So I think it's safe to say that he knows a thing or two about SpongeBob. He's also the voice of Doodlebob, so sweet. Tibbitt's first pitch for the movie went by the codename The Atlanta storyline had a fairly interesting gimmick to it, with the movie supposedly being heavily live action, and while yeah, both previous movies had live action elements to it, as well as even the show at times delving into the medium, apparently the Atlanta storyline was going to have more real characters and sets for our protagonists to interact with than ever before. As for the story, well, SpongeBob and Patrick would journey to Atlantis to save Gary, who was kidnapped by the Atlanteans in an attempt to clone him, and this is going to be a pretty common theme that you notice throughout these scripts. It's very clear that the people behind this project wanted the central plot to follow SpongeBob and company going to save Gary, who has, for whatever reason, vanished. But I'm not really sure why. For those of you that don't know, there's already an insanely popular and beloved episode of the series that tackles this exact same topic. But I mean, I don't know, I guess it's not stealing when you're stealing it from yourself. But of course, what would Atlantis be without its iconic ruler, King Neptune? No, not that King Neptune. No, for some reason not that one either. Nope, the ruler of the seas was going to be portrayed by David Bowie for some reason.
That's pretty freaky, Bowie.
Huh. But Bowie wasn't actually the only pick for the king. Because of course when you think of Bowie, the next obvious choice of actor would be, say it with me now, Will Ferrell. Yeah, I'm not really sure why these are the 2 picks that they had for the character, especially when he already exists in the show universe and in the movie universe, but I mean, with either of these 2 actors involved, I wouldn't even be upset about it. So I guess the question is, why didn't this get made? Well, if you've seen the third SpongeBob movie, then you know that it pretty much did. While not a whole lot of the particular details of the Atlantis storyline are known, the basic plot is pretty much identical to Sponge on the Run, or at least the Sponge on the Run we ended up getting, which is especially weird since according to sources, the studio canceled this script due to the fact that it heavily revolved around Atlantis, and according to them, Atlantis doesn't sell tickets? I'm sorry, but do you guys know what kind of movie you're making here? Cause it really doesn't sound like you do. But you know what's the weirdest part about all this? Guess where SpongeBob and Patrick end up in the actual third movie? Yep, you guessed it, fucking Atlantis. So what's going on here, and why does this seem so fishy, I guess you could say? Well, personally I think the studio was fine with the script, but didn't want Tibbett attached to the project for whatever reason that I don't know. So they canned him and had Tim Hill just slightly rework some of the specifics, which I mean, of course, I don't know Tibbett personally, and he could be a huge nightmare to work with, but this just seems kind of harsh. But no coming to conclusions yet. We still got one more script to talk about, and this, well, this is where it actually gets weird. That's not even a joke either. That's actually what this is called. So unlike the more lighthearted, buddy comedy-centric tone of the Atlantis storyline, Alien Cat was said to be much more serious and even a lot darker in tone. It was also going to be the SpongeBob franchise's first real foray into the science fiction genre, with one dude who was working on it saying that the film was basically going to be SpongeBob meets Independence Day. Which is fucking insane, and I can't even tell if this is like the dumbest or the best sounding movie description that I've ever heard. As for the plot, well, buckle up, cause this is where it gets tricky. So the primary antagonists for the film are a race of anthropomorphic, extraterrestrial felines. Hence the name Alien Cat storyline. And as you've probably guessed by now, the alien cats, led by their king Twinkles, visit Bikini Bottom in search of their chosen one, who, of course, happens to be none other than Gary the Snail. Cause it turns out that good old Gare Bear is a prince from a long forgotten race of alien snails, who were all decimated by the alien cats eons ago. And Gary happened to be the last survivor due to him being shipped off planet all Superman style. And for some reason, if the alien cats get Gary and sacrifice him, then their god, the almighty Galcaticus, will awaken once again, and bring this race of pussies back to their planet-conquering selves. No pun intended. Yeah, I'm not really sure what the fuck's going on either. So, basically the alien cats go planet to planet destroying all life and obliterating everything in their path in order to turn these planets that they conquer into their own personal litter boxes. But they're only really able to do this with Galcaticus' assistance. And now, from what I can tell, it seems like since Gary survived the last attack on the snail planet, that Galcaticus hasn't been able to reawaken and help the alien cats claim any more planets. Cause from what I can tell, Galcaticus can't really help out unless all the members of the planets that he takes over are killed, which is pretty fucking dark for a SpongeBob SquarePants movie. So from here, the story would have seen SpongeBob and the gang traveling across the universe and encountering all sorts of different environments and creatures, in an attempt to get Gary back from the alien cats before they fucking murder him. And if all that wasn't enough for you, there's an entire massive subplot with Nicolas Cage playing himself running for president, and some type of conspiracy between the alien cats and Cage's pet tiger Fluffy. And that's still not all. Fucking Jeff Goldblum is in here too for some reason, playing an army general named Talonbeck. Now, there isn't a whole lot of information on what these guys would even be doing here. It doesn't even seem like their plot will cross paths with the Bikini Bottomites at any point throughout the film, which is great. Now, I just think this is a good time to remind you guys that this is a SpongeBob SquarePants movie. And I have brought up the titular character like twice. So you'd think that that would be why this plot got cancelled, right? Because it's confusing as shit and adds so much unnecessary lore to a premise that really doesn't need it at all? Well, actually no. According to Paul Tibbett himself, the studio put a stop to the script once Trump became president in 2016, because I guess they thought that the Nicolas Cage storyline would be too controversial in this political climate, and that is even fucking dumber than the reason they scrapped the Atlantis storyline, bro. Also, keep in mind I'm leaving out quite a bit here. There's this whole other subplot with Mr. Krabs going on, and even David Hasselhoff was supposed to show back up and reprise his role from the first film.
Hey, settle down. Take it easy. What the scallop? We stay hungry, we devour. Put in the work, put in the hours, and take what's ours. Lacking some on in my veins, my culture banging with strange. I changed the game, so what's my motherfucking name? Larry.
Like, just look at this leaked poster. The film was very much trying to do way too much. You can't even make out SpongeBob on this poster for SpongeBob. But with all that being said, I don't know, it still could have been pretty fun, I guess. The world of Bikini Bottom was always a vessel for the outrageous. So why not turn that up to 11 when making the film? I guess we'll never know though, because eventually Tibbett was removed from the project and we ended up with Hill's version. And while there's no definitive answer for why this is, we can definitely speculate. For those of you who have seen Sponge on the Run, you probably know that, first of all, it's just not that great, but also it focuses a lot of its runtime on promoting SpongeBob's new spin-off series that was soon to come out, Camp Coral. So while again I have no actual real confirmation for this, I'm willing to bet that Tibbet, being as close with Hillenburg as he was, wanted to respect his friend's wishes of never having any involvement with spin-offs of his show. And when Nickelodeon decided that's what they wanted the primary focus of the movie to be about, then Tibbet decided to part ways with the studio, and they decided to bring on Tim Hill to complete the project how they see fit. Now again, I really want to emphasize that this is all just speculation, and not even normal speculation, but speculation from my dumbass. And I mean, who knows, maybe the Camp Coral stuff was Tibbet's idea to begin with, but to me, what I just said makes the most sense with the limited amount of information we have about the whole situation. While the Sponge on the Run film we got wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen or anything, it was definitely far from the best. And even though the plot details for the alien cat version are kind of all over the place, who knows, the finished project could have been a completely different story, and Tibbet might have somehow been able to bring it all together in the end. But who knows, maybe we'll finally get to see some alien cats in this upcoming 4th film in the ever-expanding SpongeBob movie franchise.
What the scallop? Oh, Goofy Goober!